The Montana wind cut through Fort Benning like a blade that November morning. Staff Sergeant Kaya Redfeather stood at attention outside the Special Operations Sniper Course headquarters, her dark braided hair pulled tight beneath her patrol cap, her bronze skin catching the first pale light of dawn. At 28 years old, she was about to become the first full-blooded Lakota woman to attempt the Army's most grueling precision shooting program. "Another diversity hire," muttered Sergeant First Class Brad Hutchins as he walked past her, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let's see how long this one lasts." Kaya's jaw tightened, but she didn't move. She'd heard worse. Growing up on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, she'd learned early that the world had low expectations for Native girls. Her father, a Vietnam veteran who died when she was 12, had taught her something the night before his last deployment. Our people survived centuries of impossible odds. You carry that strength in your blood. The turquoise bracelet on her left wrist had been his. She never took it off. Inside the briefing room, 23 male candidates and Kaya sat in rigid silence as Colonel Marcus Webb entered. He was a legend, a Desert Storm veteran with over 200 confirmed kills, a man who'd trained some of the deadliest shooters in American military history. "Welcome to hell," Webb began, his voice like gravel. 90% of you will fail, not because you can't shoot. Any idiot can pull a trigger. You'll fail because you can't think. A sniper isn't a soldier with a scope. A sniper is a ghost who calculates wind, distance, heartbeat, rotation of the earth, and the weight of a single decision that could save or end lives. His eyes swept the room and landed on Kaya. "Some of you think this is about proving something," he continued, his gaze unwavering. "It's not. This is about becoming invisible, patient, and willing to wait 3 days in your own filth for one clean shot. If your ego matters more than the mission, get out now." Nobody moved. Webb nodded slowly. "Good. Because starting today, you belong to me. And I don't care what you were before you walked in here. All I care about is what you become when you walk out." The first week was designed to break them. 20-hour days. Navigation exercises through frozen forests. Advanced ballistics theory until their brains felt like mush. Physical training that left even the strongest men gasping. And through it all, Kaya remained silent, focused, and relentless. But the whispers followed her everywhere. She only got in because of quotas. Wait till she has to carry her own weight. Bet she quits by week 2. On day 9, during a 72-hour field exercise, Kaya's partner, a cocky ranger named Tyler Moss, deliberately fed her wrong wind calculations during a critical shot simulation. She missed the target by 8 inches. It was enough to earn her a public reprimand from Webb in front of the entire class. "Redfeather, that shot could have gotten your team killed in combat," Webb barked. "What happened?" Kaya glanced at Moss, who smirked. She could have exposed him, but something her grandmother once told her echoed in her mind. A warrior doesn't need to prove her enemy wrong. She just needs to prove herself right. "My mistake, sir," Kaya said evenly. "Won't happen again." Webb studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "See that it doesn't." That night, alone in her barracks, Kaya recalculated every variable from the exercise. She realized immediately what Moss had done. Instead of anger, she felt something colder, determination. She pulled out a worn leather journal, her father's field notes from Vietnam, and read his words by flashlight. "Patience isn't weakness. It's the sniper's greatest weapon. Let them underestimate you. Then let your shot speak." She traced the turquoise bracelet on her wrist and whispered into the darkness, "I won't let you down, Dad." Outside, the Georgia night stretched vast and cold. Somewhere in that darkness, Kaya Redfeather was becoming something the Army had never seen before, and the men who doubted her had no idea what was coming. The second month of sniper school separated the capable from the elite. The remaining candidates, now down to 14, including Kaya, faced their most challenging phase: urban combat scenarios, extreme distance shooting, and the psychological warfare of exhaustion. Colonel Webb gathered them at dawn on the 1,000-yard range. "Today you'll attempt the shot that ends careers," he announced, gesturing toward targets barely visible in the morning haze. 1,000 meters, 15-mile-per-hour crosswind, single shot, miss, and you restart the entire week's training. This isn't practice anymore. This is your evaluation. One by one, the candidates took their positions. The pressure was suffocating. 3 men missed entirely. 4 came close, but not close enough. Tyler Moss, still Kaya's assigned shooting partner despite his sabotage, hit center mass with an arrogant grin. When Kaya's name was called, the murmurs started again. She walked to the firing line, dropped to prone position, and began her ritual. Deep breath, heart rate down. She touched her father's bracelet, feeling the smooth turquoise stone. In her mind, she heard his voice. Don't aim where it is, aim where it will be. She calculated wind speed, humidity, air pressure, even the subtle rotation of the earth over that distance. Her finger rested gently on the trigger. She became still, so still that even her breathing seemed to stop. 3 seconds of absolute silence. Then the crack of the rifle split the air. Through the spotting scope, Webb watched the bullet travel. It curved almost impossibly through the wind, compensating for every variable, and struck dead center. A perfect kill shot. Holy, one of the candidates whispered. Webb's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Respect. Red feather, he called out. That's how it's done. Next. But the shift had happened. The other candidates weren't laughing anymore. They were watching. The real test came 3 weeks later during the final evaluation. A 72-hour reconnaissance and elimination exercise in the Chattahoochee National Forest. Each 2-person team would be hunted by opposing force instructors, while simultaneously tracking a high-value target simulation. Success required perfect camouflage, navigation, teamwork, and, ultimately, a single confirmed kill shot under extreme pressure. Kaya was still partnered with Moss, who'd grown increasingly hostile as her skills became undeniable. Listen, Pocahontas, Moss sneered as they prepared their gear. Just stay out of my way out there. I'll get us through this, and you can ride my coattails to graduation like you've been doing all along. Kaya's dark eyes met his without emotion. Copy that, Sergeant. They inserted into the forest at dusk, 40 pounds of gear on their backs, ghillie suits transforming them into walking vegetation. The mission brief was clear: locate and eliminate a target 1,600 meters away in a valley, while evading hunter-killer teams for 3 days. The first night, they established a hide site overlooking the target zone. Moss insisted on taking the primary shooting position, relegating Kaya to spotter duty. She didn't argue. She simply watched, calculated, and waited. By day 2, the pressure mounted. They'd been without sleep for 36 hours, living on cold rations and barely moving to avoid detection. Moss was unraveling, snapping at every sound, second-guessing his calculations, his hands trembling from exhaustion and stress. The wind's changing too much, he muttered, eye pressed to his scope. I can't get a clean read. Kaya studied the valley through her spotting scope. She watched the grass patterns, the way heat shimmer rose from the earth, the subtle indicators that her grandfather had taught her to read during hunts in the South Dakota Badlands. She saw what the instruments couldn't measure: the rhythm of the land itself. 12 o'clock, she said quietly. Wind's steady there. You've got a 30-second window when it calms before the next gust pattern. Moss ignored her. I know what I'm doing. He waited for his own moment and took the shot. Missed 6 inches right. Damn it, Moss hissed, anger replacing focus. Through her scope, Kaya saw the target team react to the near miss, beginning their evacuation protocol. They had maybe 2 minutes before the opportunity was gone forever, and with it, any chance of passing the exercise. Moss was panicking now, chambering another round with shaking hands, his breath too fast, his movements too rushed. Moss, Kaya said calmly, switch with me. No way, I can make this. We don't have time, she interrupted, her voice carrying an authority that surprised them both. Switch, now. Something in her tone, maybe the absolute certainty, maybe the complete absence of fear, made him hesitate. Then, cursing under his breath, he moved aside. Kaya slid into position, feeling the earth beneath her, solid and ancient. She pressed her cheek to the stock, her breathing slowing to almost nothing. The target was moving now, 1,700 meters away, preparing to disappear into the tree line. Impossible shot. Moving target, extreme distance, wind shifting. But Kaya Redfeather wasn't just a soldier with a scope. She was the granddaughter of a Lakota hunter who could track elk through blizzards. She was the daughter of a Vietnam sniper who'd survived against impossible odds. She carried generations of patience, precision, and survival in her veins. She touched her father's turquoise bracelet one last time. Then she took the shot. The bullet traveled through the Georgia afternoon air like a whispered prayer. 1,700 meters of flight time that seemed to last both forever and an instant. Through her scope, Kaya watched it arc perfectly, compensating for wind, distance, elevation, even the imperceptible curve of the Earth itself. The simulated target, a ballistic torso with sensors, registered the impact. Dead center. Perfect kill. The radio in Moss's pack crackled to life. Blue team, confirmed target down. Shot confirmed. Time to extraction, 1 minute 30 seconds. Outstanding execution. It was Colonel Webb's voice, and even through the static, there was something different in his tone. Not just approval, recognition. Moss stared at Kaya, his face a mixture of shock and something else. Maybe shame, maybe respect. She didn't care which. "Let's move," she said simply, already breaking down her rifle and preparing for exfiltration. They made it to the extraction point with 43 seconds to spare, the fastest time in the exercise's 15-year history. When they emerged from the forest, the other candidates were already there, having completed or failed their own missions. The looks Kaya received now were different. No more smirks, no more whispers. Sergeant Brad Hutchins, the same man who'd called her a diversity hire on day one, gave her a slow nod as she passed. It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. That night, Colonel Webb called her to his office. "Sit," he commanded, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Kaya sat at attention, unsure what was coming. Webb studied her in silence for a long moment, his weathered face unreadable. 1,700 meters, he finally said. Moving target, variable wind. Most of my instructors couldn't make that shot on their best day. You made it look routine. He leaned forward. How? Kaya considered her answer carefully. My grandfather taught me to hunt, sir. Not with fancy equipment, with patience and observation. He said the land speaks if you know how to listen. I listen. Webb's eyes narrowed slightly, but not with doubt, with curiosity. Your file says your father was a marksman in Vietnam, 173rd Airborne. Yes, sir. He was killed in a training accident when I was 12, but he left me his field notes. I've studied them my entire life. And the bracelet? Webb asked, nodding toward her wrist. You touch it before every shot? Some kind of good luck charm? Kaya looked down at the turquoise stone, worn smooth by decades of wear. It was his, sir. He wore it through 2 tours. He said it kept him connected to home, to the land, to his ancestors, to the reason he fought. She met Webb's gaze. It reminds me that I'm not just shooting for myself. I'm carrying something bigger than me. For the first time since she'd met him, Colonel Marcus Webb smiled. Not much, just a slight curve at the corner of his mouth, but it was there. Redfeather. I've trained over 300 snipers in my career. I've seen gifted shooters, fearless soldiers, technical masters. But you know what I've rarely seen? He paused. Someone who understands that being a sniper isn't about the weapon. It's about being so connected to your environment that you become part of it. That's not something you can teach. That's something you either have or you don't. He stood, walking to the window overlooking the training grounds. You know what else I've rarely seen? Real courage. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that shows up every day despite knowing that half the people around you are waiting for you to fail. You faced that every single day here, and you never complained, never made excuses, never even acknowledged it. You just kept showing up and outperforming everyone. Kaya felt her throat tighten, but kept her composure. I'm just doing my job, sir. No. Webb turned back to face her. You're doing more than that. Whether you realize it or not, you're changing what people think is possible. That matters. He returned to his desk and pulled out an envelope. Graduation is in 2 weeks. You're currently ranked number 1 in your class. If you maintain that, and I expect you will, you'll have your choice of assignment. Have you thought about where you want to go? Kaya had thought about it. Every night. Special Operations Sniper Team, sir. I want to go where I'm needed most. Webb nodded slowly, unsurprised. That's the hardest road. You know that, right? Everything you've faced here will be amplified. You'll be the first Native woman in those units. The scrutiny will be intense. The pressure relentless. I know, sir. Then why? Kaya's hand moved to her bracelet again. Because my father once told me that our people have always been warriors, protectors who fought not for glory, but for the survival of those we love. That's what I want to be. Not a symbol, not a statement. Just a soldier who's good enough to bring my team home alive. Webb looked at her for a long moment, then extended his hand. Then that's exactly what you'll be, Staff Sergeant Redfeather. She shook his hand, feeling the calluses of a man who'd lived the life she was choosing. The weight, the sacrifice, the purpose. Dismissed, Webb said. Get some rest. You've earned it. Kaya stood, saluted, and turned to leave. As she reached the door, Webb called out one more time. Redfeather? Yes, sir? Your father would be proud. The words hit her harder than she expected. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and walked out into the cool Georgia night. Above her, stars spread across the sky, the same stars her ancestors had navigated by, the same stars her father had seen from distant jungles, the same stars that had guided her through the darkest moments of doubt. She touched the turquoise bracelet and whispered into the darkness, We're just getting started, Dad. Somewhere in those mountains, Kaya Redfeather's legend was being born, and the impossible shot that would define her career, the one that would save lives and change history, was still waiting in her future. The desert sun hammered down on the small outpost like a forge. Staff Sergeant Kaya Redfeather pressed herself flat against the rooftop, her ghillie suit blending into the sand-colored concrete, her breathing slow and controlled despite the 118-degree heat. Through her scope, she watched the valley below where her team, call sign Phantom 6, was pinned down by enemy fire. This wasn't training anymore. This was real. The mission had gone sideways fast. What was supposed to be a routine reconnaissance of a suspected weapons cache had turned into a coordinated ambush. Taliban fighters had cut off the team's escape route, and now 12 American soldiers were trapped in a dried riverbed with casualties mounting and ammunition running low. Kaya had been providing overwatch from a compound 800 meters away when the ambush erupted. Now she was their only hope. Phantom 6 to Raptor 1. The radio crackled. It was Lieutenant James Corwin, the team leader, his voice tight with controlled panic. We've got 3 wounded, including our medic. Enemy fighters in elevated positions, approximately 20 hostiles. We need fire support now, or we're not making it out. Kaya's jaw tightened. She scanned the valley systematically, identifying targets. Taliban fighters were positioned in 3 separate locations. A destroyed building at 900 meters, a rocky outcrop at 1100, and most dangerously, a machine gun nest at 1300 meters that had the best angle on her trapped team. The machine gun nest was the priority. Take it out, and the team had a chance to move. Miss, and they were finished. Raptor 1 to Phantom 6, I have visual, Kaya responded, her voice calm despite her racing heart. Stand by for suppression. When I engage, you move on my mark. Copy that, Raptor, but make it fast. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they overrun our position. 5 minutes. Kaya shifted her aim to the machine gun nest. Through her scope, she could see 3 fighters manning the weapon, partially concealed behind sandbags and rubble. The shot itself was difficult enough, 1,300 meters through shimmering heat waves that distorted everything. But what made it truly impossible was the wind. The valley was a wind tunnel. Gusts were shifting unpredictably, sometimes 15 miles per hour from the east, sometimes 20 from the northwest, changing direction every few seconds. Even the most advanced ballistic computers struggled with these conditions. And Kaya didn't have a computer. She had her training, her instincts, and her father's lessons about reading the land. She watched the dust patterns in the valley, observed how the heat waves moved, felt the wind against her face. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. The wind is not your enemy. It's a message. Learn its language. Behind her, Private Marcus Chen, her spotter, fed her data from his rangefinder. Wind inconsistent, Sergeant. Shifting 8 to 20 miles per hour. Range 1,322 meters. Target is partially concealed. Recommend waiting for better conditions. We don't have time to wait, Kaya said quietly. Below in the valley, she heard the staccato crack of AK-47 fire intensifying. Someone screamed in pain. Her team was dying. Phantom 6 to Raptor 1, we're getting torn apart down here. We need that shot now. Kaya's finger moved to the trigger. Everything she'd trained for, everything she'd endured, every doubt she'd faced and overcome, it all came down to this moment. Not for glory, not to prove anyone wrong, but because 12 American soldiers needed her to be exactly what she'd promised Colonel Webb she'd become. A ghost who calculated the impossible and made it reality. She became perfectly still. Her heartbeat slowed. The world narrowed to just her, the rifle, and the target. She didn't aim where the target was. She aimed where physics, wind, intuition, and something deeper, something ancestral, told her the bullet needed to go. She touched her father's turquoise bracelet one last time, then she took the shot. The bullet left the barrel at 2,800 feet per second. For 4 seconds, it flew through the chaos of that Afghan valley, fighting wind, gravity, and heat distortion. 1,322 meters of impossible trajectory. Through her scope, Kaya watched. The bullet struck the machine gunner center mass. He dropped instantly. The weapon went silent. Target down, Chen whispered, awe in his voice. Holy hell, Sergeant, that was... But Kaya was already adjusting, acquiring the second target at the rocky outcrop. She fired again, another hit, then a third shot at the destroyed building. 3 shots, 3 kills, 18 seconds. The Taliban position collapsed into chaos. Phantom 6, this is Raptor 1, suppression complete. Move now, northwest corridor, I'll cover your exfil. Through her scope, she watched her team emerge from cover, half carrying, half dragging their wounded. She provided overwatch, eliminating 2 more targets who tried to cut off their escape. Her shots were methodical, precise, devastating. 8 minutes later, Phantom 6 reached the extraction point. 3 wounded but alive. 0 KIA. All because of an impossible shot that would be analyzed, studied, and become legend in special operations circles. 2 weeks later, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The ceremony was small, private, the way Kaya preferred it. Colonel Webb pinned the Bronze Star with valor to her uniform while her team stood at attention behind her, alive because of her skill and courage. Lieutenant Corwin spoke briefly to the assembled officers. Staff Sergeant Redfeather didn't just save our lives that day. She showed us what a true warrior looks like. Someone who stays calm when everyone else is panicking, who makes the impossible look easy, and who never asks for recognition but earns it with every breath. When it was over, Sergeant Tyler Moss, her former partner from sniper school, now serving in her unit, approached her. Hey, he said awkwardly, I owe you an apology, a big one, for everything I said, everything I did during training. I was wrong, Redfeather, dead wrong. You're not just good. You're the best sniper I've ever seen. Kaya looked at him for a moment, then extended her hand. We all start somewhere, Moss. What matters is where we end up. They shook hands, and in that gesture was forgiveness, respect, and the understanding that they were brothers and sisters in arms now. Nothing else mattered. That evening, alone in her quarters, Kaya opened a weathered journal and added a new entry beneath her father's Vietnam notes. Dad, today I learned that the impossible shot isn't about the distance or the conditions. It's about carrying forward the strength of everyone who came before us. Every warrior, every ancestor, every person who refused to quit when the world said they couldn't do it. You taught me to aim true, but you also taught me why we aim at all. To protect those who can't protect themselves. Mission accomplished. Until the next one. She closed the journal, touched her turquoise bracelet, and looked out at the North Carolina night. Kaya Redfeather had walked into that sniper school as an outsider, doubted and dismissed. She walked out as a legend, not because she demanded respect, but because she earned it, one impossible shot at a time, and somewhere in the stars, her father was smiling, If you believe that courage has no gender and that warriors come from all walks of life, type honor in the comments below. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today.